All right, ready to dive into something pretty cool.
Always. What are we digging into today?
Today, it's all about energy innovation, but with a twist. We're talking sand batteries.
And batteries. Okay, I'm intrigued.
And you should be.
Yeah.
This isn't just some science experiment. This tech could seriously change how we power things.
See, I knew there had to be a reason we were talking about it. What's so special about them?
Well, to start with, it's a pretty amazing blend of old and new.
What do you mean?
We're talking about taking something as basic as sand, like at the beach, and turning it into a cutting-edge energy solution.
Okay, I have to admit, using sand to store energy does sound a little out there. How does that even work?
Honestly, when I first heard about it, I kind of thought the same thing, but it's all about heat, right? Yeah. Think about how hot sand gets on a sunny day. That heat, that's pure energy.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you capture it on a scale that could actually power anything?
That's where the ingenuity of this tech really comes in.
Mm.
Imagine a massive insulated container, like think giant thermos.
All right, I'm picturing it. A giant thermos.
And it's filled with, you guessed it, sand.
Okay, so we've got a giant thermos of sand. What's next?
That's where renewable energy comes in. Solar panels, wind turbines, they generate electricity, and that electricity is used to heat the sand to crazy high temperatures.
How hot are we talking?
We're talking up to 750 degrees Celsius.
750 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than a pizza oven.
That's what I'm saying. So you're basically creating a massive superheated sandbox.
Okay, so we've established that we're good at making things extremely hot. But why sand? Wouldn't any material heat up?
That's a good question. And you're right, a lot of things would heat up. But sand has some pretty unique properties.
Like what?
Well, first, it's everywhere. It's abundant and cheap. Second, sand is really, really good at holding on to that heat.
You mean like it has a high heat capacity?
Exactly. We're talking a 90 to 94% energy retention rate.
90 to 94%. That's incredible. I mean, my phone battery is struggling to hold a charge after lunch.
Right. And that's not the only advantage. They can also last way longer than your phone battery, like decades, right, with barely any degradation.
Okay, this is sounding more and more impressive. So we have this super efficient, long-lasting energy storage solution using something as basic as sand. What's the catch? There's always a catch, right?
There's got to be a trade-off somewhere, right? It can't be all sunshine and superheated sandcastles.
Well, you're not wrong. There are definitely some challenges. Like with anything new, one of the biggest hurdles right now is the cost.
Yeah, new tech can be pricey. So how pricey are we talking?
Well, installing a sand battery system, especially a big one, can be more expensive than traditional heating systems, at least to start.
Okay, so the initial investment is a bit steep, but what about the practical side of things? These things sound huge. Where do you even put a giant sand battery? And how does that heat actually get to my house? I can't exactly run an extension cord from a sandbox.
Those are great questions, and you've hit on two key points. First, size. They do need a decent footprint, though they can be installed underground. Out of sight, out of mind, right?
Makes sense. I wouldn't want a giant metal box in my backyard either.
Exactly. And you were right about location being important too. To get the most out of them, you really want to put them in areas with a lot of potential for renewable energy.
So sunny places for solar, windy places for wind turbines. Basically, got to be strategic about where you build them.
Exactly. And for your second question about getting the heat to your house, think of it like a network of underground pipes carrying hot water, all powered by that giant sand-filled thermos we talked about.
So kind of like a super-sized version of those heated floors some people have.
You got it. And speaking of scale, our article mentioned that sand batteries work even better on a larger scale, like for heating a whole neighborhood. Why is that?
It's about sharing the warmth, right?
It's about sharing the warmth, but also about efficiency. When you're only heating one house, you lose a lot of heat to the surroundings. But with a bigger centralized system, you can distribute that heat much more efficiently. Less waste, more warmth.
Right, like the difference between boiling a cup of water versus a whole pot.
Exactly. Plus, these community energy systems can create this sense of shared responsibility, you know? If one part of the system has a problem, the whole community can help out. It's pretty cool.
So it's like a neighborhood watch, but for heat. I like it.
Exactly. And this actually ties in with what we were talking about earlier about Spain being a good fit for this technology.
Right. Because they've already got those communities using communal heating systems.
Exactly. Those systems near Madrid, those are proof that this concept actually works. They're already set up for this kind of shared resource,
So it's not a huge leap to imagine them switching to sand batteries down the line.
Not at all, especially when you consider how well Spain is positioned for renewable energy.
Tons of sunshine.
Yeah.
And we know this technology is already working in other parts of the world, right?
Absolutely. We've got places like Alberta up in Canada and Finland. They're already using sand batteries, dealing with those long, cold winters.
So it's not just a pie in the sky idea. It's actually happening.
It's happening. And what's really cool is how Finland is doing it. They've incorporated the sand batteries right into their district heating system. A great example of how this can work on a larger scale.
Okay, so we've talked about the upsides, and we've touched on some of the challenges. But it sounds like sand batteries could be a real game changer in the transition to renewable energy.
They absolutely could. I mean, think about it. We're talking about a technology that's using an abundant resource. It's super efficient at storing energy, and it's got the potential to bring communities together.
It's kind of poetic when you think about it. Using something as simple as sand to power our future.
It really is. And I think that's a really important takeaway for our listeners today.
What's that?
The future of energy, it's not just about finding new sources. It's about finding new ways to store that energy, to share it in a way that works for everyone.
Finding those smart solutions, those win-win solutions.
Exactly.
It's been fascinating learning about all this with you today.
The feeling's mutual. Always happy to talk about game-changing tech.
Until next time, everyone, keep those minds curious and those questions coming.